This is the One Soldier Podcast, episode 16, with me, Russell Hillier. On today's show, I'm joined once again by my brother Dillon Hillier, and also sitting at the table is the best-selling author, former Ottawa City Councilor, and retired Master Sniper, Jody Mitic. Now, Jody Mitic is a name that you've probably heard before, especially if you live in the Ottawa area, but I guarantee you haven't heard his full story. Not like this. We're going to get into the war in Afghanistan, what it takes to make a record-setting sniper kill, and the cesspool of politics in our nation's capital, and the toll that it takes on people who venture into that swamp hoping to make a difference. This podcast was one that I had been looking forward to for quite some time, and so we took our time jawing over a whole bunch of different topics, which is why I'm going to split and post this conversation into two different parts. So here we go. This is part one of my conversation with Jody Mitic. I hope you enjoy. This is the One Soldier Podcast, episode 16, with me, Russell Hillier. And returning to the podcast, I've got my brother Dillon.
Thank you for having me again, Russ.
Good day, Dillon. We've also got, to my right, at the table, the one, the only, Jody Mitic.
What up, y'all?
Jody.
Yes,
Welcome to Lanark County. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I love your house so far, by the way. That's the dopest farmhouse I've ever been in.
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet property.
It's pretty much, I wish I could live here, yeah. So I might move in if you got a spare room.
I think you're welcome back anytime. There's a lot of ground that I wanted to cover today. You know, I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about your time in Afghanistan.
Love it.
Some of your time in politics because, we'll get into it.
All right, let's get into it.
There aren't many. There's not a lot of people household names in Canada who are military oriented, and I'm not overstating things. I don't want to make it seem like every Canadian knows who Jody Mitic is, but there's a lot of people who know who Jody Mitic is, and I'm talking about my colleagues in Calgary, teachers. Certainly in the Ottawa area, you're a pretty well known name. The reasons are obvious. I mean, you were on the. We talked about this earlier. You're on The Amazing Race.
My favorite TV show.
And I know you can't wait to do it again.
Oh, so glad I didn't get invited back for their all-star episode.
We've got that. We've got your book, best-selling book.
Yes, sir.
Veteran of Afghanistan, Ottawa City Councilor. You've lived a pretty public life for many years, and I know you've taken a step back from all that.
Yeah.
So first of all, just thanks for
Cheers, man.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you're here. I guess what I wanted to start off with is because what we usually do in this show is talk about the books that we've read and written, and we won't dwell too much on this, but everybody has their own reason for writing a memoir. Yeah. And sometimes it's most of the time I don't think it's for money because let's be honest, you can get some
way
good
easier
checks.
ways to get rich.
There is, yeah. But it's funny because everybody who meets a best-selling author, which your book is certainly a bestseller.
Outsold Don Cherry and Ron McLean together.
Perfect. There you go. And so everybody thinks that you make a ton of money. You don't.
I think I lost money on my book.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
What was your reason for writing this book? Because when you're sitting down to write it, you're...
Well, I guess the easiest answer is people demanded it. And I, we were talking a little bit before the show, and I haven't really said this on anything official before, so you'll be the first. So the night I was wounded, I was a sniper team leader. I was a master sniper. You won't find many patrol reports with my signature on them, for the simple fact that we were doing work. We were doing what you would imagine a master sniper and his team does behind enemy lines. And when I stepped on that landmine, for whatever reason, the chain of command decided to put my picture in the paper. And ever since, I've felt like I was on the back foot because my whole professional career is now there. And I became a sniper for exactly the reason that you don't have to talk about what you did. And so I had to roll with that, and because I immediately put my life in danger by letting the enemy know who's been killing them for the last 5 months while we were there. And my team and I have a number in my head that I don't want to say, but let's say I stopped counting out loud at 72. enemy killed.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of assists, right? Actual bullets in people is a number I keep to myself. But when I say 72 kills, I say 90% of them are assists. So whether or not I spotted the enemy and the Green Berets called in an airstrike, or my sniper saw a platoon and we used A-10s to wipe them out, yeah, the pilots get the kills, but we get the assist, right? And so as soon as my picture was printed, they kind of betrayed the trust that snipers have with D&D, and it's been a problem ever since. My picture was the last casualty picture, I believe, for that very reason. No one's ever apologized. No one's ever no one ever asked me why I wrote a book or if I wanted to before today. I was kind of pushed into it, but as far as I feel, like D&D as a whole, or the ministry, I'm not sure who, somebody decided that my life was less important than the story. And that's what soldiers do, right?
Do you think that they were, by releasing your picture, do you get the sense that they were trying to make your story a morale boost, maybe for the country?
Well, yes, that was part of it. The other part, because of the work we were doing, it was just to cover up the failure of that particular mission. In my opinion.
Which was what? So you were on Task Force 108 or
306?
Okay, so my apologies.
Yeah. No, but hang on. So that the job we were doing, at the time, it was the only mission I'd ever said no to, because I just, we'd been working straight since New Year's, 3 and 6 man, and occasionally other size of teams depending on the job. We were already short staffed, and I was bagged personally. And the mission, in my opinion, was gonna the overall goal of the task force mission was gonna happen with or without us. They asked if I would go with my team. I said, you can let Recce Platoon or somebody else can do that. Somebody told my boss something that made him tell me, I'm going to go and take your team. And I said, well, fuck that. Of course you're not going to take my team. And, I was last in the order of march. And apparently the spot, it may or may not have been command detonated. So take from that what you will. And it was a marked spot. So they knew it was a spot with an IED, etc.
Did you know it was a spot?
Well, no, this is what I'm saying.
So that intel hadn't been passed down to you, or
well, don't overanalyze what I'm saying right now. The picture in my mind is the Master Corporal, Master Sniper team leader with however many tactical engagements and whatever we did with our allies. I said, I don't think we need to be there. The colonel and my sergeant said, we think you do, so we're going to take your team. And I said, no, I'm going to go. And I was the one that got smashed. So, and then they put my picture in the paper. And ever since, I've been trying to figure out, my position. Because after they did that, the whole community, unfortunately, basically kind of they couldn't turn to me, so to speak. So when I wrote my book, a big part of it was to get my side of the war out. And trust me, what you read is not close to everything. And that's between me and the unit and God, and because some things aren't meant to be talked about. But I achieved my goal in that even the old grizzled airborne guys and who I used to look up to, and I still do, many of them, and some of the other guys, they said that I did it right. And my goal overall was to put a positive light on that war, and it was a war. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Global war on terror.
Yeah.
And it was print the book or don't. And because no one in the D&D had told me anything good, bad, or indifferent, and because of the morale position, like you pointed out, I just kind of rolled with it. To be honest, my dad was on my case to write the book a lot. I don't know, man. And when it just happened, I tell you, I had 2 ghostwriters that I fired. I had one that quit because after Diab got killed, he thought he'd be next. I don't know.
Whoa, back up. You just said after Diab gets killed.
That was the name of the guy in Parliament Hill, right? Is it Sorello?
Yeah, Sorello was the soldier.
Okay, so that happened during the election, and then my book was coming out the following fall, so my ghostwriter bailed.
Really?
He said, well, what if they come after me for writing your book?
Wow.
Yeah. So regardless, anyway, I'm getting a little off topic, but to answer your question, at the end of the day, my real job was, it's never been Amazing Race. It's never been a book writer. It's never been a podcaster. It's never been a politician. Fuck's sakes, politicians. Anyway, I was a combat soldier, man. I am about as pure infantry as you can get in mindset and attitude. And I was a master sniper, and I was a very young master sniper in combat. So that's the real Jody, I guess. And so the book was to just kind of put a little bit of a closing chapter on that part of my life, and I achieved it.
Yeah. So there's two things I want to touch back on. Sure. I just want to also relate. So when I wrote my book, it was due to pressure from my father and my brother. So I can certainly relate to that.
But, which you said was a quote fucking stupid idea, and nobody will want to read it.
That's true.
Okay, well, you know what? We'll write a book about you, bud, and we'll see how you like it.
But also so just going back to at your core, being an infantry soldier, have you found it difficult to give that up, or let that go? I suppose.
Well, I let it go, and it fucking ruined me. I drank and I sought comfort in other things, but I'm back with my regimental association. I'm working back with my old unit. I'm teaching marksmanship.
Yeah.
All the things I was told not to do after I got oh, you're a veteran now. All those skills you spent your entire adult life perfecting, fuck those. Which is basically what I was told.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never wanted to let it go.
I can't let it go.
But why should you?
Even to this day, I'm seeking out even though I've let myself go a little bit, but I'm still seeking out opportunities that will get me back into any sort of lifestyle like that. And it's difficult.
Well, I think so much of your identity is
your entire identity.
And what's it's like did the great one not go on to coach a hockey team? Of course he did. What else is Wayne Gretzky gonna do when he got out of hockey? He's gonna run hockey or something. So for guys like me and Dillon who spend our adult lives learning how to do combat for a living, how else do you want us to spend the rest of our lives? Especially if we're getting smashed at. I know a guy who lost both feet at 19. He's a paratrooper, this and that, grew up in the Army. What's that guy supposed to do for the rest of his life? Right. And the public is actually, they're turning to us for how do you guys have resiliency? How do you train for this? And we're going to get in a little trouble here. Frankly,
I love it.
A lot of the military story about combat isn't mine. I don't have PTSD. I was diagnosed with depression because I lost both feet, and then I had drug abuse issues because you know what they give you for OxyContin when you don't want to take OxyContin anymore? More OxyContin. So it's kind of out of your hands. But I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? The whole military combat identity has been co-opted by this mental health shit. And, I did the last podcast I did, she talked about the suicide rate, which is no greater or less than normal.
Yeah, it's exactly
by the way. Within the actual combat arms community, it's way lower.
Right.
By the way. You know why you end up with people having PTSD and committing suicide? When you ask a clerk who pushes paper and does typewriter shit, oh, here's a rifle, and we need you to escort a convoy out to Spurwan, where the snipers and the Green Berets are.
So, I was in Afghanistan in 2013, way after combat operations had ended. So that actually happened. I heard third or fourth hand stories of cooks telling their grandma or their parents that they were going out on patrol and stuff. So they
did.
Did they?
Well, hang on. Remember,
that's crazy.
Remember, everything in the military is a patrol. That's first of all. Whether you're standing still or out inside the gates, we're going to patrol around inside the camp. Okay. So there's that. And then there's, if you didn't, on our tour, they were thinking about giving out a combat badge. And then because of that, all the support personnel wanted a patrol so they could possibly qualify for it.
Right.
And then we didn't have any air power for whatever reason. We had zero air support of our own.
Yeah,
convoys had to be used. And when we got there, D&D had sent zero combat engineering equipment that I saw in 06. Apparently it was there somewhere, but it wasn't on the battlefield. And they had 3 or 4 flatbeds for retrieving lavs and stuff. 3 of them were already blown up by the time and we were like there to relieve your unit as they were coming down from Kabul. So it's not like it was a surprise that we were going to Kandahar, right? But regardless, what we did, just like the Marines in Korea and all the other battles where you grab the cooks and the clerks and you send them out to the line, we did that. Okay. And by we, I mean the military, and I think we're paying the price now because
they don't have that mindset, right?
Why should they? That's the part that kills me. Is like, a soldier's a soldier. No, they're not. First of all, because there's a reason you have combat arms, and then the rest of them, right? And it's but unfortunately, it's an 80-20 scale.
Right.
And when you equip 100% of your army the same, except for like the 20% of the equipment that only the combat arms needs, unfortunately, and I dealt with it my whole career, it becomes a cool guy thing. I couldn't get a pistol because some officer didn't think that corporals should have pistols, and it's never mind what your job is. It's this mentality that, we're in combat in Kandahar when Op Medusa kicks off, and the mechanics back in camp don't want to work on the vehicles because it's after 4 o'clock. If you're a mechanic and you hear this, sorry, man, that happened. It happened. Mm-hmm. I had an artillery forward observer that wouldn't give me control of the artillery battery because he didn't think I was responsible enough to shoot his ammo.
Right.
Same guy who then called in an airstrike on our own guys, right? So it's the dichotomy of the environment, and that we went from a training to a war footing, and we kind of didn't know how to handle it. Everyone from private to general had never been shot at before.
Yeah.
That I know of. Yeah. And also, successive Canadian voting blocs have voted in governments that love slashing military spending.
Well, it doesn't matter which government gets voted in. They all
I know conservatives love Harper, but I got nothing good to say about him when it comes to the military.
Either do I.
But that's just me. I don't know what other people might think.
Well, that's going to go against a lot of the prevailing wisdom, right? That the liberals are tough on the military and the conservatives. But
it's bullshit.
But what does that mean to the liberals? Like, why do they enjoy stomping on our necks so much? What's in it for them is what I don't get. Because they sure love using us when they need us, right? The only modern government to deploy Canadian Armed Forces against its own people, I believe, is liberal. I don't know of a conservative government that's used the military against the people.
Well, and
who was in charge when Oka happened? Was that Mulroney or Chrétien?
No, it was
Chrétien.
Yeah.
So and he was Trudeau's 2IC. So
yeah.
And
fits the pattern.
They got us into Afghanistan too.
Well, I mean, the world got us into.
But I mean, like from a parliamentary standpoint, it was a liberal government that was in power.
Yeah, but I don't begrudge the liberals for running the country the way they feel fit. Like, they get the votes; they're allowed to do what they want. But I'm saying,
I'm just like backtracking onto like you said, like the liberal government loves to use the military.
Oh, they love it.
But like they fuck us. They fuck us around.
But hang on. So let's examine that. Let's examine that statement, because I try to figure out, like, I almost died because we didn't bother to send helicopters. And, when we had an Air Force CDS, I said, well, why didn't we send helicopters? You know what he told me? He said, well, we didn't want to work for the Army. Cool, man.
What?
Awesome. Yeah, well, hey, and you're a general. You're allowed to say things like that. So think about that. What is in it for the sitting government to degrade its own military? I don't know. This is something that, like, you know, maybe it's beyond the scope of this podcast.
Yeah.
But also,
I
politically...
I think that we can... we'll sort out these problems. Jody, a lot of people who listen to the podcast, when they heard that you were coming on, they
extremely disappointed, were they?
Well, that remains to be seen.
Sorry, go ahead.
They want to know, and actually I want to know too, like, what is it about Canada that produces the, like, we're known as a nation that does produce good snipers.
We are now, yeah.
So what is up with that? Like, how did Canada sort of fulfill this niche?
So I believe it goes back to World War I. Actually, it goes back to, you ever heard of the Nile Voyageurs? Yeah, you have. Okay, yeah. Me and you. So Canada used to have a very well-earned reputation as being, you know, good soldiers because of our militia system. You know, it was credited, though maybe a little over-credited, with stopping the Americans in 1812, etc. So when you're a commander or a battlefield person, as I am, I'm looking at maximum effect for minimum effort and risk, by the way. So when I joined the military in 94, we had just gotten the C7, and it was quickly upgraded to the C7A1, which was scoped. Mm-hmm. And if you go back to Tommy Prince in the SSF, and you go back to World War I...
my battalion.
Well, they were stood up in Ottawa, so, like...
Tommy Prince was 2 VP after.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Well, he's a Canadian soldier to me, but he's a sniper, ultimately. And so... you know, I love guys that care what battalion people come from.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah. Well, I can give it back, buds. Come on. We can wrestle right here on your dad's floor.
All day.
So, the Canadian Army almost canceled snipers during the Cold War. And some guys, I don't know who, some of the guys I trained under, I know that, they decided to take what they had and make the best of it. So we had the C3, which was from the 70s. So they had them refurbished, and they bought some different scopes, and they really got into the books. And we realized, we being the royal we in the military, that they call us, and not just snipers, by the way. There's snipers, there's reconnaissance scouting, there's forward observation, there's combat divers who are all nuts. I love those guys. There's the pathfinders, you know. After they disbanded the airborne, we had no tier 2, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. And we kind of, all of us in the specialty sections and platoons and the different regiments and stuff, we kind of filled in. And sniping and reconnaissance with like optics and sensors became very valuable in its ability to let you know what's going on. You know, so in Kosovo, my first tour, we had just gotten the Coyote reconnaissance vehicle.
Right.
And at the time, it had the best surveillance suite of any reconnaissance vehicle in the world that we thought of in NATO. And so when you are able to report on what's going on, you're able to affect affect outcomes by interdicting, right? So interdiction is a very high priority of snipers and scouting, and you know, and any rifle platoon or any unit could be employed in a manner of scout or screen. Pardon me. But when you add in the element of taking a guy's head off at 3,500 meters when he thought, you know, when he's giving you the finger through the scope, and then and you get him, that psychological effect on the enemy is uncalculable.
Yeah.
And we got a guy at 1650, and after, like, they wouldn't poke their heads up above a wall for 5 clicks beyond it, because we were in an overt post for a while. And then, you know, I've talked to other snipers, and they talk about getting guys at 2 clicks, and, you know, there's unreported distances and stuff. But the point of the whole exercise, so to speak, is to let the enemy know that Canadian snipers and or marksmen, because you don't have to be a sniper to shoot someone at 2 kilometers. You could be a marksman. You're just assigned to a rifle platoon or something like that.
Or have a lav.
Or a lav, yeah. But the thing with the lav is you expect a lav to eat you alive, right? Yeah. Like, you look at a lav, like, if I had to fight a lav, I would run. Fuck fighting a lav. First of all, fuck fighting Canadian soldiers. They don't use us unless they don't expect prisoners.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know Canadians like, oh, we're peacekeepers.
Yeah, bullshit.
No, we are. Because we'd kill everybody that would ruin the peace.
I don't think that's what they mean by that.
That's exactly what we do, though. Why was the ppcli so effective in the Medak pocket? Because they shot back.
Yeah,
and they said, go fuck yourselves, right? And I know I'm using bad language right now, but I'm an infantier, and you think a locker room is bad? Try a platoon area. And our goal on the battlefield is to destroy the enemy.
Yeah, close with and destroy the enemy,
No,
man.
forget the close with part.
Well, okay, in your case, but...
Well, listen, but Dillon, I'm a sniper is everything from knife fighter up. I like to use a bolt action long range rifle, but if I have to, I'll be Baba Yaga from John Wick and stab you with a pencil, right?
Yeah.
We're not picky on how we kill people, but it's very effective with long range rifles, and that's it. The effectiveness of the psychological impact.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get at is I would imagine that when the enemy is in a position that they think is secure and far enough away,
and that's when I come in.
When you come in and you start picking them off, then I would imagine that just it sows terror, and then all of a sudden their position becomes untenable because they're in a safe place. But actually, whoa, it's not safe after all. So did you actually see that in action? The effect of you take the shot, you kill the enemy. What happens to that enemy position afterwards? Is it abandoned, or do they try to resecure?
You know what? You're asking questions that honestly don't have quantifiable answers that I could say, well, this happens so many times. What often happens, regardless of how you engage an enemy that fights as guerrillas, they scatter. Unless they're a disciplined group, which is usually the guys coming out of Pakistan, but because they move in groups, they're actually easier to spot. So, and I'll tell you, we often didn't engage with our own weapons. We would use artillery or aircraft or a lav nearby, if there's a lav nearby. My favorite was a Predator drone with 4 or 5, there's different payloads, but back in 06, I believe we had, I don't think we had the Reaper yet, but my favorite aircraft was a Predator drone with a couple of Hellfires, and or a B-52 at maximum range with JDAMs. And what those are is their radar and laser. No, it's not radar. GPS and laser guided munition. Mm-hmm. And they are accurate to within a 10-figure grid, which is a meter square on the ground. And man, if I had one of those around, I didn't even pull out my rifles, because why risk my position and my men when I could just lob grenades at you, which is all bombs are.
Yeah.
Because I was a mortarman originally, and then I'm fine. And if they don't know where I am anyway, I can call in artillery all day.
Yeah. Before this episode started, I did a little bit of research, and so by that I mean I went on Wikipedia, and here's what I came up with. Robert Furlong, he had the longest confirmed kill from 2002 until 2009. It was about 2,400 meters. Mm-hmm. After that, I think a British soldier narrowly had a longer distance kill by a couple dozen meters. And then in 2017, that record was smashed in Iraq, where you were doing.
JTF2.
Right, and that kill was
allegedly.
Well, and they're saying it was 3,540 meters.
Yeah.
As somebody who trained with these guys, who knows what it takes to do that, what do you have to put into making a shot of that magnitude, of that distance?
Well, it's everything you'd imagine, plus the level of training and dedication that we have in snipers, and especially when they're active. Rob got really good because he was allowed to consistently engage an enemy with that rifle and that ammunition. And once you understand how your equipment works, it's like most race car drivers, it's the same type of inputs and outputs. Most professionals, anything like demolition, writing, it's the same type of problem solving, and also data crunching. And, Carlos Hathcock, the Marine sniper who held the record right up until Rob broke it, he called it swag. And I like to call it swag, too. It's scientific wild-ass guess.
Yeah.
Not to diminish what they did. Remember, at 3,500 meters, a 1 millimeter deviation from your target is 3.5 meters.
Right.
Right? So imagine that. Like, most people are way skinnier than 3.5 meters. And then your bullseye at that range on a piece of paper would be about 8 to 12 feet wide, right? So you're actually talking about shooting a bullseye within 3 bullseyes when you hit a person at that range. So what they had, though, honestly, in my opinion, that made them that much more effective is teamwork. And what snipers do is, I know we're portrayed in the media as these lone gunmen, and no, a good sniper will always have backup. A good sniper will never think he's the best shot. A good sniper looking to be effective and force multiply on the battlefield, whether he's basic, det commander, or advanced, or master sniper, he knows that when he integrates himself into the overall combat toolbox, so to speak, he's able to be effective at ranges double of what they would expect normally, right? And so what I have seen is that to make a shot that far, you're probably good to use 2 shooters, maybe 3, and 1 or 2 different spotters, because at that range you're not seeing the bullet in the air. You can't track it. You can only look for the effect on the target. And so what they did is they put together a team, and just like we did, I had a 3 to 6 man team at my disposal, and they worked it out in the team, and they finally put the rounds where they wanted them, and the enemy shut down their attack.
Yeah, it just seems like there's at that range there must be so many variables that.
What I'm trying to say to you though is, like, honestly, I can't tell you how many variables get calculated in your head while you're in the moment. Like, I missed a guy at like 2,500 by through the scope. It looked like I barely missed him, but if we went out and measured it, it probably would have been like 25 feet. Right. But the 50 cal gives you effect. And effect means like you see what happens. So
you see that pink mist.
You know what? I never saw a pink mist, but what I'm saying is
that's just what I've heard from. I was never a sniper, obviously. So.
Well, you know what, man? At the range we shoot, we wouldn't see the mist. Right. What I'm saying. But the mist is a real thing. It's for sure happens. Sometimes you get, I've done a couple of things where maybe you get blood on yourself. So, but the point is that to quantify everything that goes into that shot and then add in the amount of practice, the whole saying, how do you get to Carnegie Hall, comes into effect. 10,000 hours. So 10,000 rounds. How did that guy do that shot? 10,000 rounds.
Yeah.
And did he count them all, and were they all bullseyes? No. But the one that matters is the one that got that guy. Yeah, that guy could have missed those snipers could have missed every shot. For all we know, it took them 100 rounds to get that guy, but they got him.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I think a lot of people, the perception is that it's, remember that movie, I forget what it's called, but the guy has the mantra, 1 shot, 1 kill. But it's not really like that, is it?
For whatever reason, we got that as a motto. I've never shot anybody in 1 round or less, unless they were like 50 meters away from me.
Yeah.
Most sniper shots that I've seen are at least 2 rounds, maybe probably 3.
Right. Have you ever, were you ever engaged by, a counter sniper?
I believe I was. We were at Spurwan, and then I was on the phone in a spot that we all used, so it was a secure spot, and a round went. I heard a round, and I felt a round go right by my head. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, dude, that was my next question.
Yeah,
and you just stole it.
Oh, it's all right.
It's good, man.
But getting missed on the battlefield, a whole lot of things just missed me on the battlefield. And most of them weren't counter sniper thing. And where we were, like I said, maybe, I don't know, because we had Chechen snipers apparently hunting us, and those are the only guys I was worried about running into. And I think we did run into them and we kicked their ass.
Right.
And I think I don't think we ever heard from them again in that area. I don't know. I just know that they were a threat, and then one day they weren't, and we had a few engagements that we didn't. Here's the thing about being a Reg Force frontline sniper. We're not JTF or SWAT. I was never shown a single picture or a single name of who I was shooting because we were there to counter. What does the infantry do? Close with and destroy the enemy. And to me, as a regular Army frontline sniper, I got the top of your head to the tip of your toes and everything in between. And I'm gonna, like I said, if I'm gonna throw grenades, stab you, shoot you, blow you up, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to kill you.
Yeah. How did it feel like when you killed your first person?
I don't remember.
No?
Me personally, so I never shot anybody with a sniper rifle.
Okay.
My first close-up engagement with someone was in a spot, and he was there, and then he wasn't, and I ran up the stairs, and I think I got his buddy that was on the other side after I got to the top of the wall. But I have memory gaps.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good thing to touch on. Like I recorded a lot of my combat on GoPro, and I watch these videos, me being in combat, and it like I know it's me, but I don't fucking remember.
When I say I have memory, I have like moments that I know happened, but I didn't remember them until later. And honestly, they were mostly when I was up close with the enemy.
Right.
Because I had a Green Beret tell me I shot a guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I was going to shoot him. And I was like, all right, whatever, man. I don't really, I didn't give a fuck. I was just there to fight, man. And I loved it. And
dude, it's the fucking best. Killing someone is like a lot like the first time you have sex. Like you don't really know.
I'm not laughing at you, man.
You don't really know what you're doing, and there's a lot of feelings. I don't know. To me, it was.
Yours is different than mine, I guess.
Yeah,
okay. I honestly have zero emotional attachment to it.
It was. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Well, I mean, there's awesome in the sense that I won. That's how I felt.
Yeah, man.
And I wasn't fighting anybody who didn't want to be there. I know that for sure. We were fighting the guys coming out of Pakistan. We were fighting, like I said, some Chechens showed up apparently. Now we're hearing rumors about maybe the Russians had bounties out on certain guys. I don't know if our group was part of that or not.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, where we were in a. A lot of what happened is still I believe, classified and stuff. But, it's also, what are you there for?
Sorry. That's what I wanted to get into is you guys were both in Afghanistan. And in the year 2020, when you look at what that country is today, when you were deployed there, is that how you thought Afghanistan would look in the year 2020? Or
in what sense?
Well, in the sense of what like you just said, what were you there for?
I didn't care. I don't care.
Right, but hang on.
When you look at the country now, is it in better?
I think it's great.
Yeah. So you can look at it and be like,
I have no regrets. The only regret I have is that I trusted my team a little bit too much on on the wounded side. That's post there's 20. What do you call that? Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
And I don't believe anyone was being bad, I just think, they didn't know what they were doing. But that's post-injury. When I look at Afghanistan, though, little girls go to school, little boys read more than just the Quran. It was a progressive Islamic country anyway before the Russians invaded and whatever. If you really want to drill into the politics of it, it's not up to us to decide at the end of the day because I did security in Kabul for an election, and the people there were like, "What do you mean we get to choose?" They just didn't get it. To them, it didn't make. They're like, "Nah, man." Frankly, a lot of them were like, "I really don't want this responsibility. I have a village elder who I let handle that shit for me."
So, and that's what I was kind of getting at. I just I don't care. Because when I joined the Canadian military, and I joined it probably a little bit later than I should have to actually get the experience I wanted. It didn't matter about I wasn't going there to save their country.
Right.
I was going there to be a soldier, and the only thing that I wanted out of it was to experience warfare.
Right. Well, I guess where we differ is that I joined the Army at 17.
Right.
I was looking for, a way of life, direction, and, just I was looking for something. And whether, like you said, whether we were doing Red River relief, well, I never did that, but I did some of the ice storm stuff, and stuff like that. And whether I'm helping Canadians or shooting Taliban or it's a whatever. What Dillon's saying is right. It's a whatever, but at the same time, I feel good knowing when I look back at Afghanistan that overall we did what Canadians do. We did the good stuff too. We did the roads. What's that?
I want to touch on one point. So I was on the very last tour to Afghanistan.
Right.
So it was Task Force 213. So we had a general come in. Don't remember who it was, but he was like, we did like a town hall kind of like auditorium thing, and he's like, we won, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? If the goal of us being there was to defeat the enemy, well, we certainly didn't win.
But hang on.
But it was such an ill-defined mission from like a political standpoint. But and I got into it with my platoon mates about this. So they were in. Some of them had been in 08, and very few of them had been in 06 because there was one company of 2 ppcli on Medusa. Mm-hmm. All the ground that you guys took has been like relinquished back to the Taliban,
right?
And why care? Because like we were just there to do.
It's not my house.
Yeah.
I was just there to help put up some drywall. If you want to knock it over, I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Dillon, remember, our values as Canadians follow us, and one thing we are known for around the world is being good guys. And I'm firm in that, like, regardless, we're the good guys, and we go in with good intent. And our political masters feel like they're doing something well, but also they're the political masters. And let's think about it this way: I sat on a city council, and I had a police force and the first responders. What's their mandate? Maintain and ensure the peace, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about ground taken and lost, we got to remember that. That style of warfare is actually fallen out of favor as well. Because when you draw a line and you say everything we take on that side of the line is ours, then that's where you run into issues of legacy. You run into issues of social justice. You run into issues of favoritism, things like that.
What you had just described has basically created the entire mess in which the Middle East, the true Middle East, is in right now. Drawing artificial lines.
Perhaps, I don't know. That was done by people above our pay grade.
No.
But
That's what I mean. Like Iraq, Syria.
Yeah. What about them?
It's a shit show because of World War I and Sykes-Picot.
What, do you think it was World War I?
I
personally don't think it was.
I think probably if they. Well, no, actually, you know what? Even if they did divide up, Sunni, Shia, Kurds in their own countries, they'd probably still fucking be at war. But
but when what you're saying is true, somebody did draw a line on the map, and he was a white British guy at the time. But who were his advisors? They were all locals. It's not like the British guys were there and have a vacuum. Right. And and so when you read the history pre-World War I, the world was exactly where they thought it should be at the time. And hindsight being 2020, it's easy for the leadership in those failed countries to point at the West, so to speak, and say, well, it's their fault. We sold them all our oil for nothing. And then our crown family decided that we weren't worth anything and sold us to them as well. There's a whole lot of, if your dad's a politician at the provincial level, and I did the municipal. But I tell you, man, politics is always why a line gets drawn on a map where it does. And to blame who drew it is like blaming the quarterback because they maybe moved the goalpost.
Right.
And so, politics is like trying to score a touchdown on a football field where the goalpost is running away from you.
Yeah, and on that note, actually, that's a good a good bridge to where I wanted to go with you next, because... And that concludes part 1 of my talk with Master Sniper Jody Mitic. In the next episode, we're going to get into the corrupt world of politics and Jody's time as an Ottawa City Councilor, and quite a bit more. I'll say right now that there's going to be some explosive stuff in that episode. I think you're going to like it. In the meantime, I'm going to give a shout out to some of the new followers to the podcast during the last week. So first of all, we've got Benny Jardine. Hey Ben, it was great meeting you at the farm. And also, we've got an account by the name of Fuck. And I hope that's not your real name, Fuck, but hey, thanks all the same for following and subscribing. And for everybody else, if you like today's show, if you like what you're hearing, then be like Ben and be like Fuck and subscribe. Also, you can share on social media, tell your friends and family about the podcast as well to help grow the audience. And hey, there's one more thing you can do to help me out. Go to Apple iTunes or wherever else you get your podcast from and rank the podcast. If you're feeling sort of verbose, then maybe you can also leave a written review as well, and that really helps out. So that's it. That's all for this episode. Stay tuned for part 2 of my talk with Jody Mitic. I think you're going to really like it. And until that time, out.